Hello and welcome to another session on methodology of literature. Today we continue with Russian formalism. We discussed the concepts of Victor Slowacki, defamiliarization and fabula and stuse. Now we move on with the other formalists who introduced or who gave to the formalism their ideas or their concepts. Also they added to the various other concepts added to or contributed with or associated with formalism, and that is Boris Tomaszewski. Boris Tomaszewski brought in the concept of motives or motivation, and motivation or motive is called the smallest, or the motivation is called the smallest unit of a plot. The motive, that is, it is called the smallest unit of a plot, which we may understand as statement or action. Now, he makes a distinction between the free or bound motive and free motive. Now, a bound motive requires a story, while a free motive is inessential from the point of view of the story. However, from literary point of view, free motives are potentially the focus of art. You might be wondering what this motive is. See, motives are nothing but small incidents that add up the plot. You have already studied fabula and stuse. Now, it is this motive comes within stuse, that is the plot. So it is a sequence or an incident that adds up the stuse. Okay, so for example, I'll give you an example. If you look at Milton's Paradise Lost, the book actually begins with God throwing the angels or the fallen angels, that is Lucifer and his team, to the hell. All right, the book does not start with the battle or the war. It begins with after war situation, where Lucifer and his gang is thrown out from heaven into hell. It is only in book 4 that Raphael speaks about the war, and that too when asked or when inquired by by Adam. Now I'll just tell you the story, in a little bit of the story, so that you will be able to understand why Milton did not use this war or did not speak anything about the war in the beginning of the poem or this epic poem, and he inserted it only in the 4th book, and this is called the free motive. Now, free motive, I told you just now, there are various other motives also, but here you have the free motive, which is actually inessential to the from the point of view of the story. It's mostly, or it focuses mostly on ornamentation, or it focuses mostly on giving the narrative an artistic element. Okay, so now in book 4, the book 4 opens like this: God sends Raphael to warn Adam and Eve of Satan's plan to destroy them, and also to tell them that they have their free will to determine their fate. They can listen to what God has asked them to not to eat the forbidden fruit. They can also have their free will. They can also choose not to obey God. They can also choose to disobey God. It's all up to them. But he also tells them that if they disobey God, they must not expect God to safeguard them. Okay, so Raphael visits Adam and Eve upon God's order, and Adam and Raphael speak about many things and also gives the message of God. Adam is inquisitive and asks Raphael about heaven and creation of God. He also requests Raphael to speak about the war or the battle between God and the bad angels. Now it is here where the battle of good and bad is told. So the book 1 opens with what? Book 1 opens with God throwing the rebellious angels out of the heaven, or out of heaven to hell, and or the lake of sulfur. Now it doesn't talk anything about the rebelled or nor the war. It is only in book book 5 that you have the battle, and the reason and all are only spoken here. Okay, and it is narrated by Raphael. Now this narration of war is an example for free motive. Now this is the actual, whereas the actual depiction of the war, the war that is being depicted in book 4, and Raphael's narration is a free motive, whereas the actual war that is depicted in the book 5 is the bound motive. Okay, the war is important. The war, or whatever is happening in the war is important. That is a bound motive because it has a lot of connection with the story, whereas getting Raphael to narrate the story or narrate the battle is a free motive. It is inessential actually. But why do you think Milton uses this free motive, or uses Raphael, or gets Raphael to narrate this? This is because in doing so, Milton is able to insert the narration artistically. So as I told you, free motive is something inessential, but it is used for what? Used for artistic narration, or to create an artistic beauty to the plot or story. Clear? All right. Now, so a story must incorporate casuality, or it is just a chronology. It has to have some casualties, and these casualties are come in the form of motives. Okay, so we can reduce the work to irreducible or basic components, and that are called motives. They are the sub themes, like you have the plot. They form a part of the plot. Okay, that is, they form a part of story, that is. So thus the story or the fabula is an aggregate of mutually related motives in the story that is reported in a work. These motives, how they appear are the plot, how they appear in the plot. They are not arranged chronologically and can be inferred, or it can be put in the or it gives more definition to the fabula, that is the story. So I hope you understood the difference between fabula, story and motive. Fabula is the skeleton, the raw material. You have the atta, yes, you want to make chapatis out of it. So how do you make the chapati? You have to add water, you have to add salt, some add milk, and then they mix and form yummy chapati, right? So in order to form this chapati, which is actually the finished product, that is, it makes the whole fabula turn out to be a great story or a good story. These things that you add, that is the milk, either some add milk, some add bananas in it, some add hot water in it, some add salt in it, some add oregano, some add some coriander, and so on. Now these things that they add in it to make chapatis, they form the what the stew say. What you add first, whether you add water first, whether you add oregano first, that shows the stew say, how you arrange it. It may not be arranged in a chronological order. You may arrange it, maybe you start from the middle, maybe you start from the end, like Oedipus Rex, I told you an example. And then how you mix them. So sometimes you add coriander or fresh parsley or mint to add flavor. So that is the motive. Okay, motives are used in the stew say, and the whole thing that comes out forms a great story. So fabula is just the raw material, just the skeleton. Stew say is the are the events or the sequences in the story that builds up the fabula, and motives are the one that give definition to the stew say. All right. There are free motives and bound motives. I told you the difference between free motive and bound motive. You have free motive, which actually gives artistic narration, whereas bound motive is they are bound. They cannot be changed because they have a lot to do with defining the plot. Whereas free motive is like, if you want it, you can add it. If you don't want it, it's like adding oregano or parsley or coriander to your chapati. You want it, you can add it. You don't want it, you can just not, you don't have to add it at all. It increases the flavor, that's all. So here also it is for artistic narration that you add all these things. So likewise, the example is Paradise Lost book. The battle is not explained in the first book. It is explained only in book 5, and that too Milton gets Raphael to narrate it to Adam and Eve. Adam, that is. He could have avoided it. He could have spoken about the battle in a different way. So the depiction of the battle is a bound motive, whereas Raphael getting to narrate it to Adam is a free motive. Now Milton has used it for what? To enable artistic narration. Okay, giving a definition to or beauty to the whole poem. Clear? Now you have also other motives. Okay, you shouldn't be thinking that there are only one motive. There are different motives. You have static motives, and they are very crucial to the story. You have motives that are compositional, that is, they are used to forward the plot. There are motives that foreshadow a major event. Okay, you will be able to, from that motive that is inserted in the stew say, you will be able to understand that there is something going to happen. Okay, some incident is going to happen. You also have motives that are used to distract the reader from the real story. Like in detective stories and all, you don't get to understand who the murderer is until you reach the climax, or until you reach the end of the book, or towards the end only you get to understand who the murderer is. So that they use various motives there inside the stew say itself, inside the plot itself. They use various motives to distract the reader from the real situation. Okay, and there are other motives which are used to make them appear very realistic. Okay, then you have motives that are used to defamiliarize. All right, so these are different types of motives. Now Tristram Shandy uses the last one, that is Tristram Shandy uses the technique or motives to defamiliarize. The form is given more importance than the context or the content. All right. Now next we have the formalist, their next concept. Now this concept is very important because this is the earlier concepts that we had by Victor Slowacki. You had defamiliarization, you had fabula and stew say, you also studied motives or motivation. Motives and motivation is by Boris Tomaszewski. Okay, and now they are called devices. Okay, they are devices. Whereas when you come to the next formalist concept, which is function, it moves away from the devices to that of linguistic purpose. Okay, it's more depending on the purpose or the mode or the genre in which the text is written or based. So it is no longer the device which was defamiliarizing. According to the later formalists, it is also the function of the work that, or the function of the language also defamiliarizes. That is, the language as such is the one that makes a kind of defamiliarization. Yes, Victor Slowinski also spoke about that, but it was all more about the devices that are used. But here it is strictly used with linguistic, or that is language as such. Okay, so it is functional approaches focuses on the communicative properties, the way the ideas are organized within the language, and its inductive aspects, that is the linguistics element. Now then they form the next phase of formalism under whom Roman, Jakobson and Tininev. Okay, it had a close affinity to French structuralism. Now they rejected the mechanical formation and they attempted to define the relationship between literary and other historical series. So according to them, in poetry, the dominant function is the poetic function. The focus is on the message. The message through the language that is used, through the words that are used, through the metaphors used, through the personifications used, through the words that how they are structured. Yes, from that you get the function of that particular poem. So language and its function was the next aspect of formalists, its distinctive feature, its semiotics, its syntax and morphology. I really wanted to go a little deep into this, but then you don't have to go deep because it's not concerning UG level, but if you were in class, we could have written that a graph can be shown, and I could have actually explained to you how metaphor and metonymy works. That's the main thing about this function of the formalists. According to Roman, Jakobson and Tininev, they gave a graph in which they would define how metaphor and metonymy are different. Okay, but we're not going to go into it because it's not it doesn't come in your syllabus. Yeah, it does come, the function alone. So just definition of the function and what function actually is all that matters to you at present. So what is function? Function or language and its function is another aspect of the formalist, a concept of the formalist by whom? By Roman, Jakobson and Tininev, and its distinctive features like the semiotics, the syntax, the morphology. So more importance, prime importance was given to the form of the words or the structure of the words, how they were structured. So in poetry, the major function of poetry is, or the poetic function is on the message that it gives to the readers. All right. So I hope you understood function. Now we move on to the next one, that is foregrounding. And foregrounding is by the Prague Linguistic Circle in 1926. And now here you have Jan Mukrovsky. He modified the theory of defamiliarization. Jan Mukrovsky. Okay, it is an aesthetically intentional distortion of the linguistic components. An aesthetic distortion. of what? Of the linguistic components of language, its structure. It refers to a range of stylistic effects that occur in literature, whether at the phonetic level or at the semantic level, that is the metaphor, irony, etc. Phonetic level, it's all about alliteration, about the rhymes, etc. And the semantic level. So it's a kind of distortion that happens in the linguistic components, and thereby how they try to focus our attention on certain messages, a message that the reader, or sorry, the poet wants to give us. So here it is, the defamiliarization is in a different manner. He modified the technique of defamiliarization, and he used it where? He used it in at the linguistic level. Okay, all these later formalists, they had a lot of connection with the structuralism. All right, so it's all about the linguistic elements. I did tell you in the beginning of the class itself what their formalists wanted to do. They wanted to make it a science of linguistics. They wanted, scientific study of the language. It was all about the scientific study of language, where linguistic elements was given prior importance. All right. So likewise you have, so let me just tell you the definition of what he what he tries to tell us through foregrounding. According to Mukrovsky, I quote, when used poetically, words and group of words evoke a greater richness of images and feelings than if they were to occur in communicative utterance. So if you use your mundane language or ordinary language, it doesn't create the sense, as defamiliarization is all about defamiliarizing the ordinary into making it look strange, right? So he says, when you use these words poetically, in poetry, if you are using, if you want to write poem, and you use words which are spoken in your ordinary life, the words or group of words, it may not evoke a great richness of images. It's all about how you are able to create images in the mind of the reader, and that too, if you are using the ordinary language, sometimes, see, as the formalists say, our perception is deadened because of all these words that you use. I did tell you about one example. When somebody tells you, you look very bright and sunny today, the bright, sunny, beautiful are all these ordinary terms. Yeah, you feel happy. But if somebody were to romantically tell you, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, it becomes more poetic. It evokes a kind of feeling, a lot of images in your mind. So it has a lot to do with evoking our sensation of evoking our feelings. So the group of words that are arranged according to Mukrovsky, the group of words evoke greater richness of images and feelings than if they were to occur in communicative utterance. So those the words are defamiliarized. Those words that evoke the feelings are better to be used or better preferred than ordinary communicative utterances or ordinary language. Clear? All right, let's move to what there's another definition also. It is some also say that it is a stylistic variation that evokes feelings and prolongs reading time. Now we like to read some work of literature or the text based on how it is written, the language. It has a lot to do with our whether you enjoy that book or not. It has a lot to do with how the writer has used or structured the language. You may not realize it consciously, but there is an unconscious thing happening. The language is able to bind us together with the author, with the characters, and with us. There is a space, a different space that is being created, an imaginary space that is created, and this actually happens because of the language that we don't really realize. We don't analyze or realize it, but it is happening. It is these languages that helps us or transports us to this imaginary space. If it is an ordinary dull language, that is why you say this book is very boring. Why do you think the book is very boring? Because it is not able to captivate or capture your attention, and it does not prolong the reading time. So here again, the stylistic, now foregrounding is a technique where, or stylistic variation, which evokes feelings because the words are structured in a different manner. The linguistic components are structured, distorted and structured. It creates an effect in the audience. Okay, I'll give you an example. One example is this. I have known the inexorable sadness of pencils. I have known the inexorable sadness of pencils. Now pencils are personified here. Pencils, they are non-living things. So I am speaking about the difficult or sorrow or the woes of a pencil. Now look at the words that I have used. I could say it is sad that the life of a pencil is a very sad thing. I am using ordinary language. It doesn't create any feeling in the mind of the listener. Whereas when I use these words, I have known the inexorable sadness of pencil, it creates or it contains one unusual word, that is inexorable. And also look at the sound it creates, in, n and a. Yes, inexorable, n and a. The sound also produces an effect. We do not know that, we don't realize it, but it does. So I have known the inexorable sadness of pencils. Pencils are personified, and not just that, this word inexorable is the one that defamiliarizes things and captures or arrests the reader's attention or the listener's attention. I could have said it is a sad story of the pencils, but if instead I choose to say I have known the inexorable sadness of pencil, it captures, arrests the attention of the readers or the audience or the listener. So in literature, it can be identified by linguistic deviation in which the poet transcends the normal communicative resources of the language, and what does he do? He awakens the reader by freeing himself from the grooves of ordinary cliche expressions to a new perception. Okay, that is the poetic metaphors. The poetic metaphors are able to bring the audience or the reader to, it frees us from the normal cliche expressions, and it arrests our attention. It takes us to a different space. It transports us to a different space because several images, because of these words that are structured, these personifications, the sound, the way the language is structured, all this is having an invisible effect in our mind, in the mind of the reader or the mind of the listener. Okay, and one example I feel, this is my perception again, I have always felt that Emily Dickinson uses foregrounding, the technique of foregrounding, because see, when you look at some of her shorter works, or when you look at some of her works, you will find that she uses no grammar sometimes. She uses, she economizes words. She doesn't go to give long, lengthy words or words that are too difficult to comprehend. In fact, she gives shorter words, and she economizes the words. Sometimes her grammar, she's purposefully careless with the grammar. Sometimes she does not use capital letters. Sometimes she goes to picking the next line. She doesn't go according to the rules or conventions or the poetic conventions. She breaks all these poetic conventions. Now what happens when she breaks all these poetic conventions is that she is able to arrest the attention of the reader, and the reader is able to transport himself or herself to a different world, not just because of the content of what the writer or the poetic function that happens, as Roman Jakobson and Chininov says. It also happens with these linguistic section where these defamiliarization, economizing words, grammar, being careless with the grammar, not unknowingly but purposefully, and then using small letters in between. All these arrests the reader's attention, and the reader is trying to probe into why she may have written so. And thus there is a lot of imagery created, and it transports the reader to a different space. Okay, so, and it is able to create a magical effect on the reader. Another example is E. Cummins. E. Cummins, I'll just read out the poem. Just listen carefully. Lights, lives, lurch. In the next line is one's world quickly from rises. Now A is written in small letter. Again the next line, army the gradual of unbeing fro. Army is in small letter. On stiffening greenly air and to goes go. Drift slippery hands, steez slim flot twitter. Faces is written in the next line, and that's it. Nothing else is written, faces alone. Only stand with me, love, against these its, until you are and until I am dreams. Now I'll read once more because I've been explaining in between. Lights, lives, lurch, a once world quickly from rises. Army the gradual of unbeing fro. On stiffening greenly air and to goes go. Drift slippery hands, tease slim flot twitter. Faces, only stand with me, love, against these its, until you are and until I am dreams. Now the poem deviates from normal language. Okay, the primary devices, it deviates totally from the formal language, from the normal language, and the penultimate line, that is the second last line, only stand with me, love, against these its, until you are and until I am dreams. So this line is unexpectedly different from the rest of the poem. It is totally different, has nothing to do with the rest of the poem. You feel like that. So this is all about the aesthetic function developed by the Prague circles. So that is Mukrovsky and again Chininov. Next comes Vladimir Prop, his morphology of folk tales, and let's try and understand what Vladimir Prop's concepts are also. Now Vladimir Prop, he is also a Russian formalist, and he was more associated with the structuralists, that is Ferdinand de Saussure. Vladimir is associated with both the schools, but he is mostly named as structuralist thinker. Now, a morphology of folktale is his most important work or book. His concepts, he's famously known for his 31 narratives. Now, in your textbook, it is written narratives, or it is not narratives, it is narratives. Just correct it. narratemes, Narratems. That's how he has coined the term. So it's not narratives, it is of course narratives only, which means narratives, but it is narratems. Okay, Narratems. So just correct it. Okay, and 8 characters. He was a Russian thinker and analyzed various folk tales of his country and tried to identify common themes within this folk tale. Being a structuralist thinker, he tried to find out the underlying structures in any work, and finding out these structures, he identifies human themes in all these structures. So what he did was he tried to analyze various structures of the Russian folk tales, and by analyzing these structures, he identifies some human themes in all these structures. So morphology is actually a term from botany, which means the study of plant structure. So Vladimir Prop tried to find out the deep structure through a number of folk tales in Russia. Thus, he was able to find 31 narratives. That's the number 31. Remember that. Okay, 31 narratives. Narratives means a chain of pattern, a chain of structure, a chain of narration or pattern. Okay, a chain of pattern that happens in all folk tales. There is a similarity, a chain of pattern in all the folk tales. Like for instance, you have a starting moment, you have then some incidents or events happen, then the climax and the end. So this pattern is divided into 31 parts or narratives. Okay, then he found 8 broad characters or character types in folk tales, which is common. He also identifies 8 common character types. The first one is hero or the character. Now, hero or the character is a major character with whom the readers will associate more closely. He is the key person around whom the story is woven. Now, second character, so how many characters? 8 character types. Common in all the, which one? Common in all the folk tales, and 31 narratives common, that is the pattern common in all the folk tales. So 31 narratives or parts or structure common in all folk tales, and 8 character types. First one is the hero. Character types, okay, 8 character types. The first one, hero, the main person around which the whole story is woven, and the second one is the helper. There is always a helper. Every folk tale you will find a helper. The hero is supported by a helper in his or her quest. This helper is usually an old man or a magician who appears at the right time and provides support to the hero, or advises and supports the hero. Like you have Harry Potter and then you have Dumbledore. Dumbledore can be taken as an example for a helper. Is an old magician or an old man who is always there to help and support the hero. But here there is another one also similar to it, and that is the donor, that will come to it soon. But the difference between the donor and the and helper is that the helper is assessing the hero. So likewise, Dumbledore is assessing Harry Potter. The donor, on the other hand, again is a kind of helper. Is similar to the helper, but he will be there to give something to the hero. Again, if you are to take the Harry Potter series, see, though Severus Snape appears to be villainous, though Harry does not know that Snape is actually helping Harry, because Snape always loved Harry's mother, and therefore he when she died, he gives her the word that he will always be there to protect her son. So there Snape, Harry does not know that Snape is helping him at the right time. So there you can take him as a donor also. And there are various other characters also, like you have Hermione also can come as a donor, various friends can come as a donor here. So helper is the second one. Then the third one is the villain. You know who's a villain, the sharpest contrast against the hero. He struggles directly with the hero. Then you have the false hero. Now the fourth one is the false hero. Initially we feel that that is the hero, but he's actually not the hero. He's mistaken for the hero. The readers mistake him for the hero, but he later the audience or the reader comes to know that he was just a false hero. And what this false hero does is he tries to steal the thunder of the hero. He tries to take all his credit, and he also is in the quest of marrying the princess. So it's like you have two friends, and one will be a false hero. Okay, and then next you have the donor, and that's what I told you earlier, the helper and the donor, the difference between helper and the donor. The donor gives the person something like, say, a magical weapon or wisdom. You can also take Dumbledore as both a donor and a helper, because in one of the series he gives a magical weapon to Harry Potter. Again, Snape can also become a head donor, but here Harry does not know that he's actually helping. Okay, I hope you understood. The difference between the helper and the donor is the helper, it's actually to do with folk tales. Okay, so you can just think about Cinderella, or you can think about Snow White and some of the folk tales that we have in Indian mythology. And then find out whether all these character types fit in. So you have the helper who is assessing the hero, and you have the donor who gives the hero something. Again, a helper only, but he gives the hero a magical weapon or wisdom. He's different from the donor because he gives something to the hero. Then you have the seventh one. The next one, that is the dispatcher. The dispatcher is the person who sends the hero on a mission. So it could be a family member. Like you have the mythological it's not folktale, the myth of or the story of Ayyappan, where the mother, the princess, the queen sends him on a quest, or he sends him on a mission, right, to get the milk of the tigress, right. So that can be considered as a dispatcher. And then you have the princess. Okay, the princess may be, now the last one is the character type is a princess. The princess may take two forms. She may be the direct object sought by the hero, and he falls in love with the princess, and all his quest, all these adventures are done to just get the hand of the princess, for love. Whereas the second one is the princess as the reward. He gets an additional reward for completing a mission, like in our Indian folk tales, where the king gives a hero the daughter for saving the king from a crisis or some problem. So then under princess itself you have the prince's father also. That's also another character type. So the prince's father and the heroes, the princess is actually stuck between the father and the hero, whom to choose. okay, so there is a triangle. So these are the common characters that you see in all folk tales. So you have the hero, the helper, the villain, a false hero, you have the donor, you have a dispatcher, you have the princess, and then you have the princess father. Okay, so these are the common characters that you see in all folk tales. Mainly there are only 8 character types, and these form a part of it. Now he also speaks about 4, likewise there are 31 narratives, and he also speaks about 4 categories of folk tales. That's there in your textbook. Those concerned with the success at the end of a long struggle, the second one concerned with the successful conclusion of a difficult task, and the third one those concerned with both these cases, that is the success at the end of a long struggle and a successful completion of a difficult task, example Hercules. Then you also have those which are different, which neither belongs to the first section nor the second section. So that's about it, and we shall take up in the next class. We shall do Mikhail Bakhtin, because I'm not going to start with Mikhail Bakhtin right now. He is a person whom we should deal with separately, and I want you to be alert, because we are going to start the very, very important and also sophisticated concepts like polyphony, polyglossia, heteroglossia, okay, which all forms a part of dialogism. And first we will start with how these are different from monologism, and what monologism is, and then only we shall come to dialogism in polyphony, polyglossia, heteroglossia, and carnivalesque, which are also mentioned, in your textbook, and you may get questions based on it. So thank you for listening. I hope you are all safe. We miss you badly. I know it's your final year and you're not able to come to college. You're missing the most important period of your college life. Doesn't matter. Okay, what to do? The whole world is suffering from this problem. Just take care, stay safe, and happy learning. Okay, all right.